Hi everyone, welcome back to the Clock Shop. This is Jim with JR Clocker on eBay. And today we are going to be working on a little video, and I'm just moving the camera here, how to get your movement out of the case. A lot of you will be needing to send your movement for me for repair, or maybe you're sending somebody else for repair, but you'll need to know how to get your movement out. We're going to do a series of different kinds of clocks, but today we're going to be working with a antique Seth Thomas movement, time and strike. And the first thing we're going to have to do here is take the hands off. Now, this, let me get it closer for you here. This one is held on by a little pin. It's a tapered pin. So I'm going to just take the tapered pin, pull the pin out. Okay, I have a little cup here for it. There's a little washer, the hands, and then you can just put that aside. Now, you got to go around to the back. Let's see. This particular movement, now, let me explain to you, I just discovered this as I opened this case up, because this is a clock I actually hadn't looked at before. But there's normally a chime bar that stands up right here, and it's usually on a nut below. You can just take that nut, take the chime bar off, put the nut back on it, and put that aside as well. This one right now doesn't have one, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, the next thing that you're going to do is you can do this with a regular screwdriver. This is my favorite screwdriver. I just love the screwdriver because I can just sit here, and there's 4 screws on this movement. But I'm going to go in there and grab one of the screws, so you know. This particular one also has screws that hold in the dial on the inside, so I don't want you to get confused with that. They're big screws, and I'm going to get them up here, and I'll get my little pointer. There's one here, and then one up top here, and number 4 is sitting over here. Okay, they're the 4 screws that mainly hold the clock in the case, and that's really all you're going to have to do is get those 4 screws out. And I do want to show you one of my favorite little tools. Showed you a little bit. When you go to put this movement back together, if you have one of these are great. Now, I'm going to get some. I'm going to put it in my eBay store so you can purchase from me if you can't find them. But they hold the screw. And what it does, it just gets big, it gets thicker. So you pull it all the way out, right? You pull it all the way out, and you put the screw in there, and then you just put it in until it's tight. And then that way, it's really easy when you get the movement back to put it, to at least start it, right? Although this one's going to let me go pretty far. I got it started, and then I can finish it off with a regular screwdriver. That just makes it the easiest for getting these out. I will actually go in there and show you can actually finish it off, taking it out even with, and then you don't have to go reaching in for them. I'll try that on these 2 on top. So it comes in handy that you don't lose them or drop them. You can neatly pull them out and put them aside, and you don't forget them in the case. Let me see. I thought I had it. to get older and your eyes get not as good. Anyway, pulls it out, put it right in the little cups. Now I'm going to try it from this little tool. Oh yeah, this one is pulling out. I'm going to hold it. There you go. And I dropped it. There we go. Now, I had the screws out, and I just pull the movement straight away. Okay. While I'm here, I might as well do a little evaluation of what this movement is. I've never seen this movement before. I just literally got it. I just bought a whole bunch of clocks, and this was one of them. So I'm going to take a peek here, and so you get a little idea of how I evaluate stuff. Bring this in a little closer. And, okay. Excuse me. It's not that dirty. It's not too bad. The springs actually look very good, relatively new. Trying to get an idea why they put these little wires here. I think they were afraid that this was going to ride down on the gear or whatever, but I don't know. Not necessary. Anyway, trying to get an idea of the bushings. Oh, this bushing this bushing right here may need some work. I'm actually not able to. What I would do with this is I would take it apart, clean it, make sure the springs are not set. I would bring it back, put it back together without the springs on, and then run it and see how easily it runs and see if I need to do that bushing. Looks like maybe the only bushing. Yeah. Now, I guarantee you all the pivots need to be polished, but that one looks not nasty. Anyway, I don't know if you can see it, but it looks nasty. Now, it could just be dirty oil or whatever, but I don't care. They all have to be, people go, do I have to polish pivots? I go, absolutely, you have to. There's a couple things you have to do. You got to burnish do new bushings. I actually should burnish all the holes, whether you put bushings in it or not, because you don't know whether they were before, and it adds to the life of your pivot. And let's turn around this way. Normally I can see by just doing that. I suspect this one right there. Oh yeah, it's not showing with my adding pressure, taking pressure off, but let me see if I can get that close. Can you see it? This one right here, that's going to need a bushing. So I think I'm going to do a whole series just on this particular clock movement. It's a Seth Thomas 89 AL. Yeah, AL. It looked like an AZ there for a second, but AL. And I will take it apart. Now, the second part of the video will be taking it apart. So if you're just came to the video to see how to get it out of the case, putting it in the case is basically just the opposite. Lay it in the case, put your screws on whichever way you're going to get it into the case, and then screw them in. Let me just show you this much. Here are the 4 places that it attaches to the case. Okay, I should be doing it with this. Here, 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 and there. Okay, and, well, it likes to strike. I don't think that this clock let me explain to you why we do overhauls and why we not. And let me justify why a clock should be overhauled. You'll see a lot of people, and they'll take, let me see, I don't have one. I don't use them. A stake. But anyway, let's pretend this is a sharp piece of metal. And they'll come here and they'll go, oh yeah, this needs to be, oh, here, maybe you can see this better. Sometimes if I put oil in there, you can see them better, but you can see how loose that is. There's so much dirt in there that once I clean it, you'll see how loose it is. Let me see if I can. Anyway, it needs a bushing. So I will take it apart, clean it, put it back together, reaffirm. What other people would do is they would come in and they would start beating the clock, basically pushing the brass this way to push this pivot up. And they beat it there and there, there, trying to push that brass up. It's a garage fix. I don't know how to, we call it butchery. That's a good way to butcher a clock. When I tell my clients, I'm going to take this movement that's in trouble, that needs to be cleaned, oiled, and overhauled. The fortunate thing, I don't think it's going to need springs. But anyway, so that's a little bit less expensive. And springs are expensive now, so that will really drop the cost a little bit. But these bushings need to be done the right way. And this clock here, I'm going to say the latest this clock could be is 1930. But it could go back into the 1800s, 1890 to 1900, and in there. Look how dirty it is. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm just taking the dirt out. I just saw this. Anyway, so it has oil wells, but when they get their clock back, it will be as good as the day it was made. Okay? If there's any other issues here, we'll tackle them. But the springs look to be pretty new or newer. They're the American made. I'm going to say this clock was resprung in the last 25 years. And if not earlier, sooner, 10 years. But it doesn't have any power. Okay? It is barely moving. It's not. It should be moving along. I can't even get it. The bushings are so bad, the alignment is so bad in here that you can't even get it to fake run. It looks like the strike side's fine, but the strike side doesn't, this runs constantly. The strike side only runs, on this clock here every half hour, and then, and on the hour. So every half hour it's running. But this is running constantly. There's constant pressure here. If this clock had been cleaned and oiled every 5 years, it wouldn't be in this shape. This takes a long time for this to happen. But it's definitely fixable. And all this crud and all that stuff, that will come all off. And it will look beautiful again. The case that it came out of isn't the greatest case in the world. It's an adamantine case, but it's a pretty plain Jane one. It's missing so relative cost. To overhaul this movement minus the springs is going to be about $200. So you're not going to be able, you don't have to put the springs in, so it's going to is going to be about $200 to overhaul this. It's probably about what the clock's worth. But going forward, whatever the clock goes up or down in price, you'll have a good movement in it. And that's what I tell people. You know, it's time. It takes time. I can't get around it. You know, clockmakers have to make a living, and that's what we do. So I'm a lot cheaper than a lot of people. You know, but I only take on so much work, and I don't let people, I'm not one to sit here and hold a clock for 6 months. We usually get a clock in. This movement will be done probably, well, today's Friday, so probably Monday or Tuesday it'll be on the wall testing, and then it will test for a couple days just to make sure everything's running well, and then we'll put it in a case, we'll put hands on it, and then we'll run it that at least 4 days, and then I'll be going home. Because unless something else is wrong with it, and you really, look, when I put this back together, I know whether it's going to run good or not. The 4 days is basically getting a time on it. I can put my computer on. What I normally do is when we put it back in the case, and when I put the hands on, I already know, other than timing, the clock is ready to go. So when I put the hands on, all we're doing is timing for a couple days, make sure that I'm right. And also we'll put the computer on it and make sure that the computer says it's running the right time. And it counts how many beats an hour, and it tells me if it's running, you know, fast or slow. I can adjust it. Usually at that point in time, we're usually done with a clock like this within a week or two. 2 weeks if anytime you have to start testing. Now, these springs are so good, I know it's going to run 8 days. It's probably going to run 9, maybe even 10 days. But we've got to guarantee that it will run and keep good time for 8 days. Anyway, please subscribe and come back and see us, and we'll continue this series. This is going to be, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, something like the 89AL take out, take apart. You know, I mean, take out will be 1. Taking it apart maybe be 2. Part 2. Part 3 will probably be doing bushings. Part 4 will be putting it back together, and part 5 will be testing and recapping. Anyway, these are good movements. I really like Seth Thomas 89s. This is not the split plate version, which is really, really easy to work with, but these are really easy to work with. You know, you have 2 levers down here that, because they're so low, they're a little bit more difficult to get back together. But seriously, not that much. You can normally get everything back together and then leave the verge out, put the verge in after everything else is tested. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and come back and see us soon. Thanks for stopping by.